Powerful Content Podcast, your go-to source for content creation, strategy, and business inspiration. I'm your host, Mel Daniels, content strategist, coach, and speaker, empowering women across the globe to grow their business with powerful content that connects, nurtures, and converts. So if you're ready to create standout content that gets you noticed and remembered, or build an aligned audience who love you and are ready to buy from you, you're in the right place. I believe that content has the power to connect us all. It's up to you how you use it. Listen in for genuine and insightful chats with guests, as well as practical tools and strategies from me. It's so lovely to have you here. Let's dive into the show. I acknowledge the Wongal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the country that I am recording from today. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nation people listening today. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 113 of the Powerful Content Podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. Today, I have a very special treat for you if you're looking to grow your business through the power of teams, because today's guest is Paula Maidens. Paula helps fast-growing entrepreneurs build high-performing teams so that they can scale with ease, get back their time, and create the life that they damn well deserve. She's been a business consultant for over 13 years and uses her signature 6-pillar framework to shift the perception that hiring, leadership, and stepping up as an empowered CEO needs to feel hard. She has a straight-talking reputation, most definitely she does, and uses her simple systems and tools to support you to look within, to find a way that feels authentic and amazing, and to build your dream team to support your dream life. As an entrepreneur herself, Paula shares her own business and life lessons, as well as the hands-on experience she has from interviewing and hiring thousands of people for her clients. She's a proud mum to 2 beautiful boys, a very happy wife, a passionate yogi, and an avid traveler. Welcome to the podcast, Paula.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited for this chat.
So am I, because I know that so many of my listeners are really on that cusp of wanting to do more, wanting to perhaps hire their first team member, so like a virtual assistant, but have so many doubts and so many reservations around it. I just know this conversation today is going to be amazing for them. But before we dive into this, Paula, I would love to know a little bit about your journey and why you are so passionate about all things leadership and all things building teams.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for asking that. So I was a corporate recruiter over in London, so working with big clients with really big budgets. And what I realized was that you can pay a lot of money to buy a candidate from a recruiter, but if you don't know what you need, who you need, what you're looking for, and you don't know how to interview them well, even that massive budget won't get you the right person. So fast forward, I moved back home from London to Australia, started a business actually teaching people, coaching people on how to hire well, how to interview well. And like many of us, I think when we first started our business, at first I was willing to work with anybody, literally, that wanted to give me money. But after a while, I narrowed that right down to just working with much smaller, startup, foundational, small growing businesses, because I realized like the make or break that it is hiring somebody great versus somebody who isn't great. And literally, if you hire somebody, they can mess up your business. And I'm not saying that because I know that everybody's probably already sitting here feeling nervous. I'm not saying that to make you feel more nervous, but hiring somebody great equally can revolutionize your ability to grow and can suddenly make those big wild dreams feel like, oh, we can do this. And for everybody listening who's on the cusp, I want you to know it's 100% possible for you to hire someone great, to hire someone who helps you sleep at night, as long as you follow a process and you know what you're doing and you go into it really intentionally. So I stopped working with, the big end of town with the big budgets who could afford, frankly, to hire the wrong person and, deal with that. And somebody else has to train the new person, etc. I stopped working with those people. And now I only work with small growing business where it actually matters.
I love that. And I think that I have been so lucky. I have got two amazing team members, and I can see, like, definitely, like you've said, how just having them on board, having them as part of my team has really changed the trajectory of my business. It's changed the way that I operate, it's changed the way that I think, it's changed the way that I look at what is possible. And I really feel as though this discussion today is going to help all of those people who are wanting to hire their first contractor or, bring somebody else into their business as well. So in the content space, I hear a lot of reasons why people want to bring somebody onto their team, but there's lots of objections to that. So what are some of the most common reasons you might hear for people not wanting to build a team?
Typically, I think when you start growing your business, you start doing all the things. You are the person doing all the things, and you eventually reach a point where you're at capacity. So the first challenge and the first roadblock is, do I have enough profit? Because often we've just started paying ourselves. Do I have enough profit? Am I willing to take a cut in the salary? Am I willing to take a cut in the money that's finally dropping into my pocket to pay somebody else? So that's the first, I guess, roadblock that comes up. And then secondly, can somebody else do this as well as I can? And then I guess thirdly, what is the ramifications or the impact of if I hire the wrong person and they don't do it as well as me? What is that potential effect to my business, to my clients? And I totally get all those things, especially, when we're just coming out of that foundational phase of our business. We've worked so hard to this point. It's almost like we're holding on so tight and we don't want anything to break. So I totally get that feeling, if anybody's feeling that right now. And it's a matter of working, well, how do I sort of pry my fingers off? Which things can I pry my fingers off to clear a little bit of space in my diary to be able to focus on what's going to help me grow? Because ultimately, if you don't make that choice, if you make that choice to not hire, to keep doing all the things, to stay where you're at, that's perfectly fine, but you stay where you're at. So if you're feeling super busy, if you're working 60-hour weeks, if you're sitting there wishing you could spend more time with your kids, your dogs, in the yoga studio, doing Pilates, going for walks, whatever it is, by not making this decision and like learning how to do it well, then you're choosing to stay where you are.
And like you said, that is a choice, right? It is a choice to stay where you are or to grow. But I just know, Paula, and perhaps from your experience as well, that you can comment on this, that when you do have support and when you do have help, then that is when it opens so many doors, so many more opportunities, and so much more joy in your life to do the things that you want to do, whether it is, like you said, go to the yoga studio or work more on the strategic side of your business. It really gives you that choice.
Absolutely. So, and I think that is the big question that you need to work out, when you're on this precipice of thinking about, should I hire, should I take this leap, is to work out, what are the tasks that I'm currently doing that only I can do? What are the tasks that either I can teach someone else to do, or someone else can come in with some skill and do them in a way that is good enough that it won't impact my clients, that it won't impact someone externally? Now, when you first ask yourself this question, and I say to my clients, just because you can, should you? Often the first answer that'll come up, your brain will be like, oh yeah, no, I have to do it all. I can't possibly let go of that. So know that that's going to probably be the first response. But then we need to sit with that and go, but is it really? Do you really need to hang on to that? And, and so working through that process of your client journey and working out, well, actually, where are the really important points that I need to do and only I can do because this is my genius? And actually, where's the parts that aren't? So for example, sending out your contract to a client, does that need your zone of genius? Probably not. It just needs somebody with a high attention to detail to input some data into a template to send it out and to check that it gets returned to you. Whereas, writing something might need your zone of genius. It might need your words. Designing something might need your zone of genius, etc. Playing around and fiddling with the formatting of something, maybe that's not your zone of genius. It's certainly not mine. Getting all those bullet points lined up. Do I need to spend half an hour doing that? No. So, when we start to look at it and we think, well, where did my time go today? What did I spend my time on? And then think, well, did I need to do that? And just because I can do it, should I do it? And then if I don't think that that's my zone of genius, that's not the highest, most valuable use of my time, can I teach someone else how to do it? Or, could I hire someone in who could do that and I'm not going to say as well as you, to a level that is fine.
Aha, that is a really great flip, because something that I hear so often is I don't want to hire someone, or I don't want to hand over this piece of my beautiful business baby because no one can do it as well as what I can. So that internal shift of mindset can really help us to think about what is it that I can let go of. Yes, it may not be as good as what I do myself, but it can be good enough. Very interesting.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's something that I've actually experienced quite recently in relation to my social media. It's one of the things that I get my assistant to do is to create reels. Now, I can create a reel, but a lot of time gets lost when I'm trying to create the reel. So one of the disciplines that I've had to put around myself and to look at that and go, well, what part is really important for me to do and what part can I hand over to somebody else? Now, writing the words, doing the video, yeah, that's all really important that I need to do. And then I hand it over and let somebody else do it. Now, I've had situations where somebody hasn't chosen exactly the perfect audio or song that I would choose. And now I can get myself into a pickle about that, or I can look at it and think, but is it still fine? So it's an upbeat song, it's in my tone, it's not terrible. I just would have chosen something else probably, or, but if I had to choose something else, I would have had to search through the library for 10 minutes, 15 minutes to find it. Da, 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 da. So it's fine.
Yeah.
It gets the point across. It feels fine. It's upbeat. It's not some horrendous heavy metal music that I would never listen to. It hasn't totally misrepresented me. It's fine. And the reality is I've got half an hour back because I'm not tinkering around trying to make a reel look good.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. That's a great example of content that you can get someone else to look at as well. So it's not just the admin side of your business, or it might not just be the finance side of your business. There are little portions of content that you can outsource or give to another team member as well. I love that example. Thanks for sharing that, Paula. I'd love to just take a little different tact here if we could, and let's talk about finding the right person. So we've come to that point where we're like, yes, there are things that I do every day that I perhaps could give to someone else. They may not do it as well as me, but they do it to a good enough standard that I'm happy with. So once we've had that mindset shift and we understand that that's where we want to go, how can we begin to think about even hiring someone? Because I feel like, and I'm just drawing from my own personal experience here, we often are hiring at that point where we are so busy, we are so preoccupied, that the last thing that we feel like we could even fit into our life is trying to find someone that fits our team. So do you have any suggestions on how we can go about finding the perfect people for our team?
Absolutely. So the key to finding somebody fantastic for your business is being clear on what you're looking for. So when I talk about getting clear on what you're looking for, a nice technique or tip to do is to close your eyes and to think about, let's say it's 12 months time and we're celebrating how, successful this hire has been. You're feeling fully supported. The person's next to you. They've taken all these things off your hands. What are they doing? And how are they doing it in a way that's making you feel really great? That might feel really calm, really safe, your clients are protected, whatever it is. So getting really clear on what you want them to do, but also how you want them to do it. That's your starting point. Now, what might be, drafting an email, posting it to social media. The how is, do you want them to be proactive? Do you want them to come up with ideas? Do you want them to never, ever publish something to socials without checking it with you? Do you want them to, follow your tone? Do you want them to bring the energy and the ideas? Do you want them to, et cetera, et cetera? So the how is the thing that makes somebody great feel amazing to me and somebody equally great not feel amazing to you. And that's often the part that gets skipped over because we focus on the what. So the functional things that we want someone to do. Publish our social media, draft social media captions. That's the what. But we need to think about actually individually, me, where I'm at in my stage of business, how do I want somebody to do that thing in a way that's going to make me feel really safe and supported?
And so, how do you communicate that, Paula? How do you like? I feel as though the task-driven side of things is fairly easy to do in terms of you can write a list of the key tasks for a job role and say to someone here, this is what I want you to do. But when it comes to the how or the behavioral side of things, should that be documented as well, or how do you communicate that?
Yeah, absolutely. We write it all down. And so first step is getting really clear on our what and our how. Then we need to turn that into a really clear, specific job advertisement so it talks to the right person. So I'm looking for somebody who can do this, create social media posts, do this, blah, 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 blah. And if you're the sort of person who wants to work in this way, then this is the role for you. So you're uber organized, you love coming up with ideas, you love to meet once and then go and work autonomously, et cetera, et cetera. So you're talking about it in the advertisement, and you're talking about it in a way that's going to repel the wrong person and attract the right person. Because if your ad only says, I'm looking for somebody with 2 years experience who can do this, then everybody thinks it's for them. So our advertisement needs to talk in a way where it specifies the what and the how. So it's written down in your job advertisement, which is your external document that people can read and choose to apply. And it's also written down in your internal document, which is your role description. So you'll write down responsibilities. These are the things you need to do on a daily or a weekly basis. This is the responsibilities you have. And you'll write down behaviors. This is how you do it. High attention to detail. So for example, if you read one of my advertisements for a virtual assistant, it'll say something like, this is the sort of things that you'll be doing. And if you're the sort of person whose eye twitches when she sees a spelling mistake and gets a kick out of, and does a little high five dance with herself, when she's ticked off her to-do list and, loves to meet every deadline and blah, 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 then this is, I'm speaking off the cuff, then this is the role for you. So I'm talking in a upbeat, exciting, interesting way whereby the person's actually going, oh, they're nodding, they're nodding, they're nodding as they're reading it. And similarly, in my advertisement, it always says, if you love to work closely with the founder, meet with them once a week, and then spend the rest of your week working in an independent, autonomous way, then this may be perfect for you. Keep reading. So somebody is going to read that and think, oh, I only get to meet with her once a week. Oh, so I can't chat throughout the week. And they'll be repelled and turned off. Perfect. Somebody else will be like, she's that sort of organized person who likes to, meet once a week, and then she's going to leave me to it so I can have a flexible schedule, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll be attracted to the role.
Yeah, well, awesome. So it really is about that being absolutely 100% explicit in terms of the behaviors upfront before you even bring them on, which I love. So being clear about what you're looking for is, the first thing that we need to do when it comes to looking for that perfect person to fit our team. Is there anything else that we need to be doing?
Absolutely. So we start with getting really clear on what we're looking for, the what and the how, and that forms our hiring criteria. So we write a beautiful job advertisement that speaks to that really clearly and invites the person to reach out to us in a way that makes it easy for us to quickly screen if they're any good and they deserve any more of our time. So that might be, getting them to do something like answer a couple of questions or maybe record a video or whatever suits you. There's lots of different options. And then we invite the person to have a conversation with us. It's an interview. Now, a lot of people think that an interview needs to be formal and stuffy and all the things. Now, you can have a really effective interview that is casual, that is friendly, and that reflects you and your personality. But an interview in its nature assesses if the person meets your hiring criteria. So the purpose of that conversation needs to be really kept front of mind. I'm not hopping on this Zoom call to have a chatty chat with this person and see what she did on the weekend and just get a bit of a feeling. No. I'm hopping on this phone call to find out what she can do or he can do, how he or she likes to do it, and if it's a match to what I've really clear my business needs. So starting point, being really clear on the how and the what. And then the second step is putting that out to the universe in a job advertisement and then inviting the people to apply. And then the third step is having a really great interview that's structured in a way where you get the information you need to make a confident hiring decision.
Yeah. And how do you come up with those questions? I know that you've got a free resource that may be able to help people to determine that. But how can you make sure that you're actually asking the right questions and you don't kind of slip into that, chat, how's it going, like trying to get to know them as a person?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my free resources that you've just talked about is actually a guide which guides you on the how side of things, because that's the side that most people find really, really tricky. And so paulamaidens.com/the how, it gives you a list of suggested behaviors and it gives you an interview question that matches each of those behaviors. So you get
Perfect.
to go through and choose, maybe this is my top 5. So that's your starting point for working out which questions should I ask. And that sort of supports you on the how side of things. When it comes to the what, so when it comes to working out, well, how do I test if this person's got the right skill? Then it's a matter of sort of getting really clear on, well, what is the minimum must have level of skill that the person needs to be able to do the thing? So for example, if you're hiring someone to set up active campaign or send emails to your database, it's asking questions around, what's your previous experience with active campaign? What's the most complicated thing you can do in active campaign? And then bringing them into your reality. So if I needed you to set up some email automations in active campaign, what would you need from me to be able to do that? What would you find complicated, et cetera, et cetera? So it's like fleshing out an example of something that you would get them to do. And you're looking for things like, do they talk about tagging? Do they talk about testing? Do they talk about whatever it is that you think is important, part of that concept or thing that you want them to do?
Perfect. I think that a lot of business owners, or many of the people actually listening to this podcast episode, Paula, as well, will be super grateful for that, because it is rather a daunting experience, especially if you've come from a corporate background, like many of my listeners have at some stage or another, and have been through that really formal process of looking for people and hiring people and doing the whole people management side of things, to be able to distill that back down into something that's really simple and easy, and just knowing that it doesn't have to be a complicated process in order to find the right person for your team, can really, really be helpful. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So just to recap then, finding that perfect person for your team is about being clear, the what and the how. It's about putting out into the world, whether it's through the hiring criteria, the job advert, the what and the how. And then the third thing is actually the invitation to have a conversation, which I love that term rather than interview, invitation for conversation.
Definitely. And knowing that that conversation is both sides' opportunity to assess if it feels like it's the right fit as well. So
Mm.
even if we shift our mindset to thinking, I'm not this, mean interviewer who's trying to trick someone up. No, no, no. I'm just wanting to find out, are you right for what I'm looking for? And equally giving them the opportunity to find out if you're right for what they're looking for. So
Mm.
it's like the more conversation, the more detail, the more examples, the better. So everybody can make a really great decision about, are we doing this? Because that's what we don't want to be working that out, a week, a month, 3 months later. It's like, let's have more conversation, more chats up front, and give each other the grace of going, oh, yep, this feels good to me, or opting out if it doesn't feel good.
Perfect. So when we're going through that whole process, that hiring process to find the perfect person for our team, what are some of the common mistakes that we can make when it comes to building our teams?
Being vague and not sort of pausing at the beginning and getting really, really clear. And I see the reason why we're sort of vague is because we often rush through the process, and we generalize. So that's the absolute number one mistake, which is why, the key to hiring success is pausing to be clear upfront. Because when you're vague or you generalize, people bring to the table assumptions. So the second mistake people make is, fueling their conversation or making a hiring decision based on assumptions rather than specificity. So, oh, you've done people's social media before, you'll be fine at doing mine. You use project management systems, so I'm sure you're good at Asana, etc. Just the assumptions that we bring to the table. And the reality is that you come with bias. I come with bias based on my life experience, my work experience. And I don't believe that people deliberately come in, overstate their experience, and deliberately lie. Sure, maybe 5% of the population might do that. Most people just come in and make a whole bunch of assumptions based on what they think. you want them to do and what they think they can do for you. So that's the second thing people do wrong, is they make a decision based off assumptions as opposed to real information or real assessment. So first mistake, not clear. Second mistake, making assumptions. And then the third mistake is, the hiring wobbles, like reacting to the hiring wobbles that kick in when you're paying someone's invoice if they're a subcontractor, or they through your payroll if they're an employee. When you're like, oh, this money's going out the door, are they where I want them to be? And those hiring wobbles come from not having thought about that stage trajectory that you can expect someone to go through, to go from day zero, day one, through to full performing employee. Because you might be doing your first pay run or paying their invoice at week 2, for example. So having not thought in advance, what do I want to be seeing by week 2? What's reasonable for me to expect from them in week 2? And thinking about that at that time of making the payment and going, oh, I don't know if I made a good decision, and then reacting in that situation. So, I've got the 3 C's to hiring success. Clarity, unsurprisingly, I've talked about that many times. Second C is confidence. So that's interviewing confidence, making a confident decision because you've interviewed well. And the third one is commitment. So it's actually like backing your decision, knowing you made a great decision and knowing, okay, it's going to take time for this person to get to this certain stage. This is where I expected them to be after 1 week. This is what I expected them to be able to do after 2 weeks, etc., etc. And thinking about that in advance as opposed to in an emotional reactionary way, typically when we're having to pay for them.
Oh my goodness, I love that piece of advice so much, because it can be such a huge experience bringing on a team member. And like you said, when you get to that moment where you do pay their first invoice or their first payroll, and you just think, oh my goodness, is this person actually worth it? Have I made the right decision? You start having all of those mindset wobbles. So if you can be clear up front, be confident, and have a commitment to it, then I think that is 100% going to work out for you. I love that. So what happens though, Paula, when we go through this process? We have the clarity, we have the confidence, we have the commitment, but for whatever reason, maybe it was something we didn't ask the right questions in the interview or the conversation process, they actually turn out differently to what they came across. And I think that it probably happens quite a bit, where you might feel like you have a personal connection with someone, and that might actually drive your decision to hire them rather than looking at the what and the how. But what can we do, or how can we stop that from actually happening?
So being really clear up front and taking as long as you need to through the interviewing process to get really confident, for both sides to get really confident, will combat making those surprises on the other side. However, you'll never know everything, and at some point you do need to make a decision, like this feels like it's right, that let's give this person a go. When they join you, you then need the clarity of what do I want them doing by when, and what training do they need to be able to get to that point. And you want to share that information with them on day 1 so that they can also track for themselves, you expected me to be doing this by this point. So by being really clear with what you expect, by sharing that with them, then both of you will be coming to the same conclusion. So you wanted me to be able to do this by then. The reason I can't do this by then is this. And I call these correcting conversations. So you need to be willing and able and ready to have correcting conversation when you're noticing someone's not quite on track to your plan, to your path. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't need to be perfect. You might be like, well, I'd like you to be able to do this by the end of week 1. And you might get to the end of week 1 and go, okay, now we both realize, well, that was totally unrealistic. No worries. Or it's a conversation of, well, no, this is why I thought you'd be able to do that. What stopped you from being able to do that? What do you need to be able to do that, etc. So, if you're having correcting conversations with the person, you're getting to the heart of, why isn't this happening? And what you'll find is when you come at those conversations with curiosity rather than furiosity, so with your curious hat on rather than your furious hat on, both of you will often come to the same conclusion. And that is, if you get this support or get this training, you're going to be able to do this, or, I can't do this because. Does that make sense? But often what I see happening is we don't have the conversations. We get all up in our head, or we go and have the conversations with our husbands or partners or friends or everybody else but the person. And then we try and diagnose, why are they doing what I want them to do? Why are they sending it through to me? Why did they produce something that looked like this when I wanted this? Whereas actually you need to have the conversation with them, backing your decision from that place of commitment and confidence. Hang on, so why did this happen? So tell me why you sent that email out without doing a test. What process can you put in place to make sure you test it next time? Remember how we talked about in the interview that, I would always need to see a test and approve it before anything goes live and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. So next time, we navigate it with them. And that's how you know whether you're letting the person go because you've made a mistake, or you and them are in this for the longer haul and you're building a relationship along the way and working them into being, a star team member.
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel fearful of having conversations, don't they? Like, they really feel fearful of having conversations with new team members or even team members that have been around for a while. But it is really about setting those expectations, being super clear in both your mind, written, their mind, having that conversation, having clear communication between the two of you, so that you, like you said, you can do those corrections and have those corrective conversations along the way. Yes, I love that so much. This has been an amazing chat, Paula. Can I just say, I know that there's been so many gems that my listeners will be able to pull out, especially if they're thinking about hiring that first team member of theirs. So I really encourage anyone who's listening to this who is in that place to go and check out Paula's resources. They will definitely help you out. Now, Paula, I love to ask all of my guests this question, and it's around superpowers. I'm all about women owning and using their superpowers. So what would you say is your superpower? Can you share it with us?
It's really empowering people to believe that support is possible and that they can lead other people in a way that feels good to them. So, it's as you started to say there, many people are fearful of those conversations because of the previous experience they've had. A corporate boss or somebody made them feel bad or gave them feedback, etc. So my superpower is rewiring the way we think about these conversations. And it starts with being really, really clear on, well, what do I actually want? How do I want the person to work for me? Okay. So then stepping into that role, all the permission that comes with that to want what you want and ask for what you want, and then going about it in a way that actually doesn't leave you feeling like a total bitch. So that was a very long answer to your superpower question.
No, it's a perfect answer. And I can definitely see that as well. I can definitely see how that's your superpower. Before we finish up today, Paula, I would love to know, do you have any final parting words of wisdom for my listeners?
Yes, absolutely. If you're thinking about hiring, do it early. Don't leave it too late. Most people leave it too late. So, if it's on the agenda, start the process. Start this process of clarity now. Take your time and take as long as you need to find the amazing person. So if it's a maybe in your head, start the process so that you get lots of beautiful time around it, and go into it knowing and believing that someone great is out there ready and wanting to work with you, and that person will come.
I love it. Love it so much. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your wisdom with my listeners. I truly appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening. That's it for another week. To get more powerful content in your life, make sure you're following along on socials. My handle is @meldbusiness. And just in case you're wondering, the groovy music for this podcast was created by Just Here on SoundCloud. I'd also be super grateful if you took a moment to rate and review this podcast so more amazing women like you can experience the power of content. And if you're like, hell Mel, stop talking, I'm ready to work with you now, here's how we can work some powerful content magic together. Firstly, come and join the Content Effect, my membership inspiring women with service-based businesses to ditch the content chaos and start creating standout content that gets you noticed and makes sales. You can join us by using the link in the show notes or just Google the Content Effect. The second way we can work together is via my one-on-one packages. We can create a sustainable content strategy or start to build out your client journey. It's up to you. Hop on over to meldbusinessservices.com.au/services to find out more. Until next time, have a beautiful week and embrace the power of your content.